Hey everyone, Stacks here. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I am checking out Doctor Doom number 5. Written by Christopher Cantwell, art by Salvador Larroca, and your color artist is Guru FX. If you're new to the channel, make sure you reach over and hit that subscribe button, and we'll get ready to dive into Doctor Doom number 5. If you're not caught up on this series for any reason, I have a link to the playlist down in the description below, and I'll leave a link you can click on right about here so that you can go and check it out, get caught up, and then come back to this video and finish it up. We found out during issue 4 that the black hole that they had created on the dark side of the moon, I mean, both Tony Stark and Reed Richards are working on this thing right now, and it is still extremely unstable. Well, this issue starts with a continuation and a worsening of that scenario where everyone is evacuating this area as fast as possible. And while we get this small hint of what's going on the moon with the black hole, we also find out what's going on with Doom. And he's having these issues with these flashbacks to this life, this alternate life that never existed, but in his mind or something, it's becoming more and more and seeming to be more and more of a reality. And while he struggles in this life as the deposed king of Latveria, as he sleeps on a park bench, as he digs for trash in a dumpster, which is insane to think of Doom being that desperate. But while he's living this life, he's having these flashbacks to his life where he's madly in love and he has a child and he has this so much better life. And at the center of all of it is this woman that he doesn't even truly know, but he feels as if he loves her. From there we jump to Liberty Island, where this scientist that Doctor Doom has been so obsessed with is working on a device that is able to control the weather. Well, she seems to be having some problems because instead of making it rain, she's made it snow. And these guys start kind of giving her a hard time about it, and they actually ask her about her accent. That's when she reveals that she's Latverian, and they kind of like, oh, no wonder you're here, no wonder you're stateside working on this. I mean, what use would Doom have for a device that can control the weather other than, starting a blizzard inside the Baxter building or something? And she very matter-of-factly kind of puts them in their place and says, look, Latveria has the lowest poverty rate of any Slavic nation. No unemployment, no drugs, guns, no organized crime or corruption. Medical care is free for every citizen. And this dude in the back is like, yeah, what about the Doombots? She's like, what about the Doombots? And he comes out and says, look, I don't mean to offend you, Doc, but, Hitler built the Autobahn, but he was also a mass murderer. And it's at that point where she very coldly looks him in the eye and says the law of sedition and rendition. Any Latverian citizen found guilty of seditious language against the state is subject to rendition and imprisonment, which I find it very unlikely that the United States has a extradition treaty with Latveria, but I guess they do if she's worried about it. And with that, she tells these two guys, I'm going to go check out this other weather generator. I can do it alone. Y'all have a nice night. From there, we jump back to Doom, and he's walking down the street when he hears news of Latveria from this guy's phone as he's walking by. Well, Doom reaches over, scoops the phone up, and basically sees that it is official. He is no longer the recognized ruler of Latveria, and instead, he's been, deposed by this stand-in from the Symkarian government. He then commences in absolutely just smashing this guy's phone, just crushing it in his hand. But it's still unclear to me if that's because he's angry with what's going on with his government, or he's just teaching this guy a lesson for being a jerk and walking around with his phone turned up and not using some earbuds. From there, we find out why this dude was able to seize power in Latveria, and that's because Victorious left with Silver Sable to come investigate and find Doctor Doom. Well, when she sees on the news what was obviously going to happen if she left, she asks, look, you're part of this, aren't you? You're part of this coup. And Silver Sable absolutely denies it, says that's ridiculous. Also worth noting, some drunk guy at the bar hit on him, was told, hey, no thanks, continued to hit on him, so they scarred him for life. They just burnt his face. Whatever. From there, we jump to the library, where Doctor Doom is doing some research on this doctor that he's so madly in love with. And while he's doing this, Kang shows up. The back and forth here is actually pretty good. You have Doom asking Kang, so where are you from now, Kang? And he says, 2099, strange era. At once the future, but somehow dated. You know, of course, we're talking about the 2099 comic books and everything. It's actually pretty funny. And then he says, why are you disguised like are you no longer a ruler? And Doom tells him, look, I will be again. I seek a scientist. Oh, great. To create a doomsday weapon and seize control. And he's like, no, she's a meteorologist. And he's like, okay, well, maybe you could create some kind of ice storm within the Baxter building. And he slams the book shut. And it's like, she is to be my wife. And when Kang hears all this and takes it all in, and he looks at Doom and says, look, love is a weakness. What dimension is this, Doom? When did you become such a loser? I should kill you out of pity. And as soon as the two start to fight, Kang, poof, disappears again. From there, we jump to Blue Marvel and Herbie. And Herbie has been in the room with Taskmaster. And Taskmaster, of course, you know, he led the hit on Doom earlier, put a round through his head. Doom survived because he's Doom. But you find out that, you know, MODOK has vanished, AIM is wiped their digital records, but Herbie managed to find this doctor that we've been looking for. And once, of course, they realize that she's Latvian, it starts to connect some dots and they're off to find her. Well, it just so happens, I guess, that the Fantastic Four need to invest in an IT guy because Silver Sable still has access to the network that Herbie is operating on. And once he finds this information out, that information is stored, Silver Sable is able to see it and try to beat them to the punch. So her and Victorious are en route to the same location, North Brother Island, where this doctor is at. Well, with that, we jump to North Brother Island, where Doom has beaten both of these teams there. And when he arrives, he calls out Dr. Marivic, and he comes walking up, says, please, I came to talk. And she actually, when she sees him, freaks out a little bit, slips, falls, and tells him, look, I don't have a purse, I have no money. And he just, you know, reaches down, helps her up, and she says, who are you? And in Latvian, he says, listen to my voice. And when she does, she's like, oh my goodness, it's impossible. And she starts calling him Leader, Lord Doom. And he's like, you're correct. She's like, but how? He's like, look, I'm sure you've heard the reports, but... And she starts to kneel before him and says, I pledge. And he stops her and cuts her off and says, I would never ask that of you. And she comes back and says, look, have I done something to offend the state? He says, no. You're exactly as the vision showed. How is this even possible? And she says, look, I don't understand what you're talking about. And he, probably in a not too great way, says, look, I've seen things. I've seen a future that I must choose, and in that future we are married. And she's absolutely shocked, just like blown away, because if you're gonna try to pick someone up, that line is never ever gonna work, even if you're Doom. And at this moment, even Doom realizes how ridiculous this sounds, and you can tell that he feels that way because he says, I know it must sound ridiculous. And she's like, oh, it's ludicrous. And he's like, look, is this impossible to you? And she says yes. And his immediate thought is, you know, why my face? He's like, she has nothing to do with your face, it's your tyranny. My father, he was a journalist, he questioned your Wakanda incursion and you imprisoned him. I was 13 at this time, he's still there. And she follows it up with, so no, I will not marry you, I want nothing to do with you. And Doom, just, you know, being the humble man that he is, turns around and says, your father should have been executed. I must have been feeling bizarrely humane during his sentencing. Well, before they could get over this speed bump on the highway to true love, suddenly both of the other teams show up and absolutely all kinds of chaos ensues. Blue Marvel is focused on apprehending Doom. You have Silver Sable and Victorious who are like, look, Blue Marvel, something else is going on here. We gotta figure it out. And they're like, Blue Marvel's like, yeah, that's fine. You can talk to him after I arrest him. Well, Doom's not going to stand around and wait for it, so he opens fire on Blue Marvel. Blue Marvel manages to block it, and all kinds of chaos breaks loose. Herbie engages with Victorious, and Blue Marvel is standing there while Sable steps in between the two, her and Doom, and tries to break them up. And what can only be looked at as a true shame, Silver Sable slams Blue Marvel down to the ground. Mind you that Blue Marvels went toe-to-toe with Hyperion. So I'm just going to classify this as a lucky leg sweep, and it obviously doesn't affect him because he pops right back up. However, in this moment, Kang appears, and Kang has a pack on his back that is for Doom, apparently. And Kang says, look, I've told myself to give this to you like 200 years ago because apparently you're going to demilitarize this whole planet at this point, and it's going to make it easier for me to conquer in the future, so here you go. And inside of it is a full set of Doom's armor. So while Doom suits up, Kang goes to work, and the first thing he identifies is the custodial robot known as Herbie. And Herbie's sitting there firing at Victorious, so when Kang opens up and blows him away, he never even saw it coming. Blue Marvel sees this happen and absolutely just unleashes on Kang and blows him away. Well, right after he's distracted from that, Victorious comes out of nowhere and just slams Blue Marvel into the side of a building. Doom suited up and assuming that this thing is over, where suddenly a ninja comes out of nowhere and tries to take him down with a freaking ninja sword. But he is Doom, so he catches the ninja sword, and once he takes a look at the attempted murderer, realizes that it's one of the Wild Pack from Symkarian. It's actually one of Silver Sable's soldiers, basically. Now, she tries to assure him, like, look, I had no part in this. But Doom is taking absolutely no pity on this assassin. And with Silver Sable sitting there watching, snaps her neck. Kang manages to reappear out of nowhere right after this. And he's like, was I just killed? And at that same time, Blue Marvel is crawling away from Victorious, saying, look, Richards, he needs you, Doom. The black hole, it's collapsing. And Doom, in full armor, just stands there and says, let the moon die. Let Richard be subsumed by his folly. And Victorious, such irony. In your name you are defeat. I need a new slave, one who doesn't cough up my throne so easily. Return home at once. Prepare for my homecoming. I am taking back what's mine and spilling usurper blood. I am and always will be the Doom of this world, and it will always bow before me. So overall, I still am enjoying the story. I do think it is good. It's going somewhere. It's interesting. It doesn't fit in anywhere in continuity, though. It might as well be a standalone, and I'm confused to whether or not it is. I really don't know. The more Blue Marvel, the better. In this book, I'm really digging him so far. It was nice. I mean, I'm there when he gets tripped by Silver Sable. I'm like, what? Come on. I mean, I'm almost like tossing the book across the room. Like, this is ridiculous. And then in the next scene, he's blowing Kang away. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna give him this one. Overall, in the art, Salvador Larroca, I think, is doing a good job. But if I had to go back and remember one frame from this entire book, one that really stood out to me, I don't think I could do it. Honestly, it's just it merges with the storytelling really well, but it doesn't pop. Even the scene at the end with Doom, the one pager with Doom, it was cool, but it wasn't like, breathtaking, like, oh my goodness, here we go. It was, it was good, but nothing to write home about, kind of thing. That's not to say that it isn't better than, more than half of the other art that's out there from Marvel right now. But anyways, guys, that's all I got. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Appreciate everyone that's helped me get over 4,000 subscribers recently. I know I haven't been getting as much content out lately, mostly because of my work schedule, but that will pick back up eventually. So hang in there with me. And guys, I appreciate you. That's all I got. Real Comics Tax. Out.